Thank you, everyone, for joining. I know we have people obviously in the US, we have Canada, customers, prospects, probably even some of our rivals potentially watching today. But in all seriousness, we're grateful for the time. Today is not about selling Mnemonic, it's about being an advocate, about showing you the platform, the ease of use, some of the approach that we're taking in the standards market. I think you'll find it to be easy to use. I think you'll find that the authenticity or the authentic nature of our staff and our business shows in the software. And to be very clear, we have a leadership team here that's got about 100 years of experience in the standards world. We are well on our way in the journey, but much of that journey will depend on the feedback and the input that we get from folks like you. So we're well on our way. We're excited to show you the platform. If you have questions, feel free to engage in the chat. Tia will be monitoring that. This is your meeting. I'm just here to conduct the overview. So at any time, feel free to engage with us. Again, we thank you for your time. We're excited to show you the platform. So with that said, we are going to get going. We're going to show the platform. And again, I'm going to show my screen. And bear with me for 1 second. All right, and here we go. So what you see right off the jump, of course, you have the ability to put your logo. That's simple. That's everyday stuff. I'm logged in as an administrator. So administrators see the entirety of their program. Many of the organizations we support in the standard side have multiple locations all over the world, Canada, US, wherever it may be. The administrator sees the entire view. For today's sake, we're going to zero in focus. And of course, we're going to focus on Ann Arbor, Michigan. Why? That's where I live. And that's where I cut my teeth in this space for 24 years with a really amazing business. So I'm very proud of what's happened in the standards market of Ann Arbor. And so we're going to use Ann Arbor as the example today. So as you know, users in the standards world, they set up access, they are given a location. So imagine you're the end user and you're in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and you've been set up with access. Whether we set up a user with their username and password and email or single sign-on, the users would get set up, they go into Ann Arbor. So imagine you are in Ann Arbor today. How do you get access to the standards in Ann Arbor that have been licensed in the agreement? You go to your register. Now, trust me, when I came here after 23 years at another business, I was like, what is the register? It's just your list of standards. We take that terminology from ISO. It's your compliance obligations. So regulatory data, which is a huge part of our business, and standards are part of that compliance obligations. So you're the user in Ann Arbor, you click on registers. To make this simple, for the sake of time today, I'm going to have a little fun and change my voice a little bit. There's probably someone out there going, can I create my own favorites list? Or I have a project, or my name's Debbie and I want Debbie's favorites list. Yes, you can do that. As you can see, I've created Brian's favorites list, which is a way for you to go as the end user and pick documents and standards that you care about, whether the organization has paid for them, or I'll show you in a few minutes, you can search our entire library and still monitor standards, even if you haven't paid for them, so that we will notify you if those change. So absolutely, users can create their own favorites list in the program. But for the sake of Ann Arbor, you're in Ann Arbor and you want to know what the heck has been purchased for me in Ann Arbor. When you click on that, what you will see is it's going to start to load up all the files that have been paid for your site. Green is telling you that it's available. What we're going to focus on now, very quickly, is document description, publish date, modified date, publishing authority. Rest assured, this is a demo. So if somebody's going, why is that? It's a demo. Why is this important? This is the metadata that we're going to provide for standards right out of the box. Why? Because in 25 years of doing this, I've heard this over and over and over. Brian, standards are called out in our requirements. I need a simple way to search, get the standard I need, view it, and or download it, and or print it, get updates and alerts. That's what we're focused on here. I'll show you in a little bit later how we have more power to the platform, but we are listening to what people have said and what they want to pay for. They want to pay for that. So that's what we're going to focus on. So back to the content. This is the layout here. Imagine you don't want to scroll through all this. You could go through, there's pages at the bottom. Of course not. What are people going to do? In my quarter, since you're doing this, 99% of the users, unless you are a hardcore R&D person doing a bunch of research, they know the standards they need. So what do? They search ISO 9001. I'm going to have a little fun with this. I had someone a couple weeks ago, what does it have to be, uppercase or capital? No. Keyword, title, document. Let's do lowercase then. Let's have a little fun with this. So I do a search for ISO 9001. And what do you see? There you go. This is something we keep updated, monitored in the platform. That's why all those fields are filled in, because we use it a lot for the demo's sake. I click on this document, and what do I see? They're at the results page now. It's showing you it's current. You're going to see an abstract, some other information that we provide. In terms of like industrial sectors, we do a lot of that labeling because of our regulatory side as well. But some key differentiators are going to pop off right now relative to what the market is doing and my past experience in the market. First thing is, there's this thing called digital rights management. Many people know what it is. I used to use a DRM called File Open. What it did, it protects these files. So when people downloaded the files, they can't share them, they can't send them to their friends or locations that weren't in the contract, okay? Always used to use that. But the reality is not every publisher in the standards market mandates that. So our approach is, if the publisher mandates DRM, it doesn't mandate DRM, excuse me, like in the case of ISO here, you can download the PDF. Of course, it's copyrighted material. It's going to be watermarked. You don't own it. You can't sell it out of the flatbed of your like F-150 Ford truck. Sorry, I live in Michigan, so I'm using Ford as an example. Not picking on Ford, by the way. But I think you get it. We don't use DRM. And therefore, you don't have to install that plugin to view the publishers that don't mandate DRM. Off you go. I'll come back to the top in a minute because I want to call out something else. Historical files. One-click access to the historical versions. We will always give you at least one version. Often it's many more than that. As we build the business and our back files, we'll produce and give you more. But we don't monetize historicals. We believe that when you buy a document, you're getting the history of that document, not just the version. It's a huge, huge issue in the market of late, and I'm here to tell you we will solve that. We don't believe in that. You get the current and the historicals, just like you see here, one-click access. So back to the platform. If you didn't want to download the PDF and you've decided you want to view the PDF, you can view the PDF. Couple things that I want you to focus on today. One, could you download a shortcut to come back later? Absolutely. Because this publisher doesn't have DRM, you could download the PDF. Your standard tools where you can search, go to different pages. I think you get the idea. This is standard stuff there. But a differentiator. Before I go into that, the keen eye goes, why is that grayed out? We'll be working to improve the ability to do a compare between the current version. And if you want to jump 3 versions back, we've decided we want to improve some of those results. And until that's at the level we accept, we're only going to allow you to go to the previous version. Okay. But if you click on that, what you will notice is it's going to show you that it's comparing the current to the previous. A little disclaimer. Thank you to one of the largest companies in the world who trusted me to move to our platform and asked, could you put that disclaimer in there? They love this feature and we don't charge you. But they asked us to put the disclaimer in to make it very clear it's our people, tools, and technology that's creating this compare and red line. It's not from the publisher. So I want to make that very clear. We're super proud of that work. I'm going to stop the comparison. And we are going to jump back to the platform again, to the very beginning. And this is where I'm going to reiterate, and we're going to go through it again. Your user, you've been given access, and it happens to be Ann Arbor, and you're sitting there, how do I get to my standards? Boom, off you go. That's going to load up. They're there for you. Okay? I've shown you that you can scroll, you can search keyword title document. It knows, and it's looking for, what do you have access in Ann Arbor? If you are someone that wants to look beyond what's in your location, or you're an administrator who's doing some research on different standards you might want to add, or even purchases, hard copies, whatever it may be, you go to our mnemonic library. And that opened up our entire database. Now, we built our business for 17 years on the regulatory side. Jonathan Brunn, our president, is an engineer by trade. I could be wrong, but one of the only leaders in this space who actually is an engineer by trade, metallurgical. And we are basically making it so that you can search your standards and look for anything that you need standards related, but you will see some of our regulatory DNA in here as well. We'll be making some improvements to the UI to make it more centric to standards, but this is very simple. In training, we go over this. You could put industry standards, or if you don't want to even do that and you just want to do a blank search on IPC, shout out IPC, circuit boards, what you're seeing is red here. Why are you seeing red? You searched outside of what you have access to, what's been paid for, okay? A couple things that I would want to pull out as you do searches and you go outside of the platform where it's opening up all of our database. It's intuitive to show you in results if it's already been purchased and part of the platform because you're doing broad searches. But imagine this, that this is the file you wanted. And you're someone sitting on the call right now, and you've looked in your site in Ann Arbor, and you don't have that standard, but you want to go to the mnemonic library and open up our broad search, and that was the file you wanted right here. Now you see request because it knows that it's not part of the platform for you folks in Ann Arbor. What that does is, if you're an end user, takes you down a path to engage with your administrator or administrators so that they can look at, is that document something that they want to add to the program? Does it make sense, whether it's compliance, auditing, regulatory reasons, redundant purchasing, workflow, whatever it may be. If you're an admin, that will take you down a path to engage with me and my team to get you pricing to add the document. Very important point. There's been a pain in the industry that it can take weeks or months to get something added to the platform. 1 to 3 days. So you ask us that you want to add a document or add a location to this platform. The expectation is 1 to 3 days to turn around pricing. And because we're on the talk about timing, we're at 18 minutes turnaround when you ask for support from our customer success team. 18 minutes. We're very proud of that. So to begin, as we go back to the platform, it's very clear that you have an easy way to look for what you have access to. You also can go to the library and open up the entire database. So I'm going to pause for a moment and go back to the home. Any questions, Tia, or anything that I should be aware of before we march on here?
Yes, Brian, there's a question that's super relevant that's been raised by Alice. She asks, can you track a document in your register if it's not part of your subscription?
Yes,
I
and
think it would be
Alice,
great to emphasize on that.
yes, Alice, wherever you are in the world, you are okay with me. I thank you for your active participation. I have a sense you might have some Irish blood in you like me. Thank you for engaging. With that said, what I'm going to do is show you exactly what Alice asked for. So Alice, play along. You're in Ann Arbor and you've went in. Remember, you've went to what's been purchased for you. What you're asking for is, of course, we're monitoring all this and keeping you up to date. Of course. What you asked for was, I want to go look for something that you don't have in the platform for us under contract, but I want to monitor that. So I'm going to show you exactly what you do. Imagine this is the standard you wanted right here. Remember that we have track and register results. So your register is just your list. So if I wanted to add that to Ann Arbor, boom, saved. Now, does it mean I can go get access and mess with it like the other files that I paid for? But now you're monitoring that. So Alice, absolutely, you can do that. And that's why track and register is always there for you. Great question. Thank you. All right. So back to the platform again. I think we've talked and shown how easy it is. Get access to your location. You go to your register, which is just your list of standards. Click on it. off you go. We're going to be making some improvements down the road where you can just do one click, or again, people will just go right to the library because it's intuitive to know if that document's been purchased for you because it knows when you log in what location are you registered for and if that location has access to that publisher. Basically enforcing the contract that's in place. So with that said, I think that the next thing that's going to be important to talk about is, from the platform standpoint, is digital rights management again. Why am I bringing this up again? It's super important. So I showed you an example of ISO. In that case, there's no DRM, but there are publishers, and I'm not picking on them. It's just there are some publishers where DRM is mandated. So, for example, AMI for us, because of DRM, what do you see now in the experience? You don't have the ability to download that file. Okay. So, what happens in this case when you go to view PDF? I'm going to show this again. Now we're going to zero in on, we have a mobile app. So if I took myself off screen, I'm reading my standards right off my phone right now. So we have a mobile app for your Android, your iPhone, your tablet. Okay. So that's something that you can do. Why is that important? We, if digital rights management is mandated, DRM from the publisher, our approach is we're going to use our mobile and our desktop apps to control the copyright and the IP. So think about it like your Amazon Kindle. You can't take your favorite, Stephen King book out of there and send it to a friend, or Spotify. You can't take Bob Seger, sorry to use a Michigan legend as a musician, and share that music. That's our approach. I can tell you it's been really well received. And I'll show you in a few minutes how, for the folks that go, well, I was always used to getting a PDF. You can still download these files within the mobile and desktop app. And I'll show you in a moment how you can even print in the desktop app. I think everybody is pretty happy with what we've done. So just want to make that clear, that in that experience, if a publisher mandates DRM, that's where you're going to view it only, or you can download within the mobile and the desktop app. Okay. So that's why you're seeing that show up. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment. And I'm going to open up another screen. Bear with me. And now I'm going to have a window where you will see our desktop app. This has been really well received. One-click access and off you go. So remember, I created a favorites list. I mentioned you can create a favorites list, but here goes. Ann Arbor purchased. One click. I've already downloaded these files, but say you want to download this, any of them, this ASTM standard. Now what you're seeing, it's opening up, again, some of the standard tools that you would expect, but you can print. So I just wanted to just make it very clear. We are very much using mobile and desktop apps if DRM is involved. We're giving you the ability to download within those apps, and we're also giving you the ability to print within the desktop app. So just want to make that very clear, because there could be some folks on this call that are very much used to the DRM approach. And again, unless the publisher mandates it, we have a little bit different way of doing things. So we will stop sharing this screen, and I am going to go back to the main screen again. So bear with me 1 second. I don't want anybody's eyes to have to deal with a bunch of me jumping around. All right. Any questions to you that I should be aware of or address to any of the folks on this call?
Nope. I think we're good for now. I've been
Okay.
addressing some of them on chat.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you for your help. Tia is an amazing recent graduate from McGill University, one of the top universities in the world. So she's super smart. She keeps me going at 52. So we're super happy to have her here. And thank you for your help today, Tia. Can't
Just a
do it without
second, Brian. Carmela, you raised your hand. If you could put your question in chat, that would be great. Thank you.
you. Yep. I just have a couple of things left to touch on, and then we will give everyone a chance to ask any questions and then really get back to their day. We want to keep this high level and just really focus on ease of use, which we think is important in this space right now. So if that question comes, I'll answer it. So what we're going to do here is now focus on some of the common questions we get. from the administrators or an end user. So, first of all, if you have multiple locations, every week, the administrator will get a weekly digest telling him or her, and it could be multiple admins, of what's going on in all your locations. So, in this case, these registers, your admin would know everything that's going on in Alberta, Ann Arbor. You get the idea. If you are like me, and you could probably tell I like to try to be a little bit more proactive, you can always do things like go to external actions. And for example, if I want to know all users and teams and all my facilities, it starts to tell me what's new, what's changed. I can export that. I can put it into CSV or Excel, into calendars. I can change my different dates. So that's just a really helpful way to show you what's going on, what's been living and breathing, and the platform. So that's always at your fingertips. You don't have to wait on us to do that. Okay. The only other thing that I'm going to touch on for today is manage users, I think is important. And this is for any administrators out there. You have an easy way to search and manage your users. You can invite them, of course, for the ones that are inviting people one by one versus an SSO setup, but that's at your fingertips. There's some different levels of access you can give users, which I appreciate. Where I, in a past life, it was very much admin or user. So here because of some of our regulatory DNA, we realize there's different scenarios where maybe different levels need to be applied. We've just made it a little bit more robust in terms of those options that you may select for your users down the road. But I think the big ones for today that I'm going to touch on are the last two items, which is in the standards world, most of the publishers are set up by simultaneous users. So we have given the ability for you to have insight into those seats, who's active, reset things, as well as for administrators, a document usage report. So when you click on that, you can pick your dates, and then in about 1 minute, that report will come to you. Admittedly, if Jonathan Brunn is listening, our president, he's going to go, oh, God, I can't believe he's doing this. We'll be making it some pretty pie charts and more graphical for sure. What the market had asked us in the first 18 months or 19 months I've been here is ease of use, keep adding content, add your compare and redline tool, and get the raw data in there for usage. Over time, again, it'll be more graphical, but this is your usage report that you would run. It's going to show you how often do you view it? Did you download it? Did you print it? What user? What location? In layman's terms, that's the same data I live by in our team, whether it's Tia, Leanne, Ramsey, Dave, I could go on and on. That's the data we use to engage and have discussions with our valued partners. It's the only way you build something sustainable in the standards market, in my view. It's more about the journey and not the transaction. Took me a while to figure that out, but we know it works. So again, this is at your fingertips as an administrator to get this data. If you're an end user on the call, nothing you need to worry about. But again, that's for full transparency. So outside of that, the last thing is people will ask about support. So before I even click on that, a couple of things I'm super proud of. We have 3 dedicated people who all they do is launch new customers and support those customers. That's all they do, 99% of the time. So those folks have done trainings and support for many of the new clients that we've signed up on the standard side in the first 2 years in this side of the business, because we're about 2 years in to the standard side here, okay, which was traditionally regulatory. Jonathan invested in a bunch of people, as I mentioned, who know this space well, and we're working to accelerate. But that team is dedicated to any client that's set up. We train the administrators and we do end user sessions to make sure that, again, we empower, we advocate, and we really make sure that folks know how to use the tool. So there's no cost for that. You don't have to spend a certain level. So yes, if you spend $1 million, you get it. And if you spend $1,800, you get it. We don't do business that way. It's all about empowering folks. So again, that team is dedicated. But if you want to look at support, if you click on it, of course, there's some stuff there. Technical support, you have questions. We have a great chat bot for support, who your administrators are, your account manager would be noted, some great videos. This actually, gentleman right here is Dave Susk. He leads our customer success team, originally from Canada, now lives in Buenos Aires. An amazing talent, super, super fun to work with. And you need fun in this space because standards is critical. But anybody who tells me that standards are super fun, oh boy, would that be interesting. Dave brings a lot of life to the training as well as the rest of the team. And then the other gentleman you actually see there is Jonathan Brunt. Why do I think that's cool? He knows the software in and out. So not only does he help with business, the business and where we're going and strategy, but he is very much hands-on and involved day to day. Whether it's fixing an invoice, fixing this, talking to somebody about software, he's definitely not a high and mighty kind of guy. Everyday, regular old metallurgical engineer. So with that said, I think you get a really good idea of the platform in one quick last second tour. We're going to reiterate how easy this is. You're in Ann Arbor, Michigan. You've been given access. Off you go. Ann Arbor purchase standards. They all load up for you there. If you don't want to go to your register because of some of the improvements, you just go to the Mnemonic library and search. And if you do a search for ASTM, of course, it's going to load up a bunch of stuff. But again, as you go through this, you'll start to see stuff that's green because it knows what's been purchased. And if that's what you wanted, off you go. As you can see, that one would have been superseded. So you've got the current one down here. Just want to show you again how easy it is. Tia, any questions or anything that has come up that anybody would like me to focus on or address?
Yes, actually, both questions are pretty interconnected, so I think you're going to be able to answer both of them. We
Okay,
have one asking if you could quickly repeat how we can print a DRM standard. So I would suggest going to the app. And then we have
sure.
another question from Alice asking, can you please clarify differences in functionality between the Mnemonic platform and the Mnemonic desktop app?
Okay, great. So the first one is we're going to talk about how do you print. So you have to get the desktop app set up. So you have to go through your IT, get that set up, just like file open would have to be set up, in my experience, at any organization of decent size. So let's show what this looks like. So I have the desktop app already set up. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. And let me just go back to here. Bear with me. Okay. So now the user who asked that question, imagine you've got the desktop app installed. So now play along. Remember we're in Ann Arbor today? Here it is, right? So now what happens is you click on that, one click access, your files are there, right? In this case, I download this one. It's right here. Print right there. Thank you for that question. So then the other question was, I think, Alice. So Alice, number two, I tell you, I have a feeling you might be close to our headquarters in Montreal. I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, not in Canada. But ultimately, the real difference is it's just simply focused on it knows your list or your location, and it's just one click access. Could you search for the documents? Absolutely. But it's really all it is showing your location, your register, and search the document. Go. That's it. It's that simple. Some of the other stuff that you're seeing is just dumbed down. It's just a very simple desktop app, and the intention is for the user who's like, I just want to be able to have a simple, real simple way to use it. They use this, or if DRM is involved with that publisher, they like using this because they know they have the ability to print versus just view if they use the desktop app. So hopefully that helps. Alice, if that's something that you want to take offline, by all means, you can email me. I don't mind giving my email out. It's B Kelly, Kelley at mnemonic.com, excuse me.
I'm going to put it
Um,
on chat as well.
Yep. Hit me up and we'll be more than happy to clarify. The goal is transparency, advocate, empower. I want to make sure you're 100% comfortable in that question. Thank you for engaging, Alice. Thank you. All right.
We
So
have more questions.
let's do it. Uh,
We've been asked, is it mandatory for libraries? Sorry, Brian, are you cutting out? I'm not sure if Brian's cutting out or I am. I think Brian may be cutting out. I can answer a couple of questions further. So Erica asks, is it mandatory for libraries to be region locked? Um, Brian, are you back?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Your video cut out for a bit.
Okay.
I was just answering a question about our libraries. So the reason why it's region locked is because part of when you're licensing a standard is for a certain location. So based off of your location, you're going to be able to enter. So as an admin, you're going to be able to see all your locations. However, if you have an end user, let's say, for example, I'm in Montreal, Brian's in Michigan. If I'm logging into our Mnemonic account and I'm not an admin, I would only see the standards that we purchased for Montreal. However, Brian's an admin. He'd be able to see the standards for Michigan and Montreal. I hope that makes sense and I answered your question sufficiently. I'm going to ask you the next question, Brian. Somebody's asking to clarify what exactly a register is and are
Great
they
question.
mandatory?
Great question. So a register is just your list of standards. So it's just terminology that, remember, we take it that terminology from ISO. It's your compliance obligation. So regulatory data is and standards are. My history is 25 years doing standards. What I joke with people who are new to it, I go, it's just your list of standards. That's all it is as a register. So yes, in the mnemonic platform, you have a register that's built, which is basically all the content that's been licensed for that location per the contract. That's all it is, right? Very simple. Just your location. Yep. Over time, what we'll be looking to do probably is go in, you know the location, just like you see in the search. Off you go. You have to touch the register. But right now, you can either search the entire platform and it knows intuitively based on the where you that you've been registered. It knows your location. It knows what publishers you're allowed to get access to. Or you can go to your register. But the most simple way is it's just your location. That's all it is. Okay. Why is that unique? On the regulatory side, to be very clear, regulatory content isn't copyright IP. So you could have a customer come to me and say, Brian, I want to set up Ann Arbor, Michigan for 100 ASTM standards. Shout out ASTM, great content. And then they say, Brian, but I want you to build this another register, right? And do some things differently. We can do a lot of different things on the regulatory side because there's not copyright and IP. So that's why it's a little bit different, and why sometimes you will see that type of stuff show up in our DNA here is that really is valuable on the regulatory side, that someone could have registers work differently for a hardcore group of people on a project than the everyday person on a project. We're carrying that same type of thought into the standard side as well. So good questions. Can we add internal? Yes, you can. So can we add internal? Yes. So absolutely, you can do that. Again, just to reiterate, we have a nearly 2 decade background in the regulatory. So that's all about their loading documents, certifications. I just saw somebody doing something about transportation of dangerous goods certification. So absolutely, great question.
Brian, we have a question up there that would be good to address is what if a user is working from a different site? Do they access from their home site or based on their current work or location?
Great question. So you get registered, you're set up, your site is your site, right? That's how it's set up, right? Because you can travel. We don't care where you're at. What the publishers want to know is if Brian Kelly Enterprises has an office in Ann Arbor and one in Chicago, and users are using the platform in Ann Arbor, Chicago, they better be in the contract, and that's how it's set up. Now, if those users travel and they go to another job site to work for a couple weeks, that's fine. It's the whole idea is behind is the company X doesn't set up all their users under one site, knowing that a bunch of other locations are really where the users are coming from. That's not what the publishers want to see. That's not what you want to see. What we want to see. But again, this is web based. You set up your location once. This isn't you change the location because you know that if you change the location, that now I can get API access. We don't allow that. Yeah, that's why we control that. So again, I'm not assuming that anybody's trying to do anything wrong, but once you get set up, it knows intuitively that the user's from this location and you only get access to this content, whether you're sitting at that office or you're at a Tim Hortons having a donut in Canada, getting access off your phone, for God's sakes. All right.
Great. Thank you, Brian.
Great questions
Somebody
about the compare.
asks. Somebody asks, is it possible to know the records of the connections the users made? I believe, from what I understand, the answer to this would be our usage report.
Connections. Yeah, I don't know. That's Jose Santos Gonzalez. Thank you, Jose. I'm not quite sure if he what that. I have an idea. I don't think it's around usage. I
Yeah,
think it's more around from a change management, change control, being able to know if somebody's done something to a standard or it could be a regulatory, but in this case, standards. Um, how do they know about that internally within their own workflow. But again, I need to know more. It's a little vague.
yeah,
So, but thank you, Jose. No big deal. Feel free to shout out Tia or follow up with Mnemonic, and we'll peel the onion more on this conversation. How
yep.
do you offer English? So right now, our standards are primarily going to be in English almost all the time. We do have in the interface the ability to pick from some different languages to choose from in the drop downs, but right now it's going to be English almost all the time. Okay. That's something that's generally it's been like that where I came from. You'd have some different versions available from time to time, but the standard that we always told people was it's going to be in English. Okay. I see about the modifications, orange additions, removals, pink. You're absolutely right on in terms of what you were talking about in terms of those colors. Be very clear. That was our first rendition of our compare feature. Okay. We are well aware we're going to be making some more improvements to the display, to a summary, so that it's faster for you to understand those that to do your assessments and analysis. But we made that commitment about 8 months ago for a major company that we would get it done, and we got it done. We will only improve that compare tool. And again, we do not monetize that. It is part of the software you get out of the box. Is it possible? Let's see. Can we add it to? I think we've got in our system. Is our honor system? Is it an honor system IP? I'm not sure what that means. We do have SSO set up right now, or it's a username password set up. Okay. Most of my large clients will do SSO. Many clients will just first name, last name, give us the email address and the location of the user, and our customer success team will set them up for you.
Brian, the
Any
question
other?
there is referring to how would we know where the users are located? So, in that sense, honor system IP or SSO. Um,
Well, I guess how would you know your users all have to be associated with a location? I've been doing this for 25 years. I've never heard of a user not associated with location. There's no such thing. So you would need to figure out in your organization if you hypothetically whomever this is asking the question, if you had 10 locations, what location is that user associated with? We realize that some people might not be physically there, they work remote, but they still tie into some location. It always works that way, right? There's no such thing in the standards world as remote location and people just can go use the platform. It doesn't work that way. The publishers mandate they want to see and know the locations in the contract. With that said, we do know people are remote. So, for example, our headquarters for Mnemonic is in Montreal, and we have an office in China as well. But I live in Ann Arbor, so software that's licensed to us, I'm at Montreal. It's I'm a remote guy who tied into Montreal. So hopefully that answered your question. But that's nothing unique to Mnemonic. That is across the industry, any aggregator. It's how the licensing and really the publishers want to protect their IP. All right. One more message, it looks like.
we can take Ramsey's question. Also, if an organization purchases access to a certain standard, do they get access to that standard on the Mnemonic website, app, or mobile app all at once? It's all at once.
Yep, all at once. Yep, yep. And again, we don't. There's none of these things like, oh, you want the desktop app? There's a charge, or you want a compared tool. I don't know why I'm changing my voice, having a little fun. No, that's all part of it. We have no platform fees. We have no support fees. You pay the fee that the contract says, and that's it. Unless you add content down the road or expand access, it's that simple, that easy, and simply will not change at Mnemonic. Period.
Can new users self-register or do we need to set each user up manually? If you go for single sign-on, they can self-register based off of the email domain. And if you need to set them up manually, you can type all the email addresses of the users that you'd like to invite all at once. They receive an email and login and password on their email, and they can create their own account. The only thing you'd have to do then would just be to change their user permissions if you'd like to. We have another question from John. If you set up multiple facilities that use similar standards, how does assigning a responsible party impact that standard and how is it monitored?
So the responsible party is just a way for, think about it, that if you make someone a responsible party, it's just telling us that that individual wants to personally be emailed about that file. Right now, what's happening if you're an administrator and you have the same file in multiple locations, you could turn off that notice so you don't get bothered by it. Or, yes, you will be told about that file being updated across all the different locations that have it. Okay. But to be very clear, what responsible party is very much from our regulatory DNA, but on the standard side, what we've decided is we're going to keep the system updated. If you're an administrator, you can get a weekly digest, or anybody can run the report that I showed you. And then here, if you make yourself the responsible party, we know you definitely want a, yet another email in this world of constant emails. So hopefully that answered it. If I missed that there, um, I apologize, but I think what I understood was what's the implication of responsible party? What does that really mean? It means you are yesly going to get a personal email about that. Yes, if you make yourself the responsible party, there's some things we can do in our software that for this audience today we didn't need to dive into, but you can start to do. You can create actions, you can look at their assessments and see if they said you're complying, not complying. So there's a lot of things you can do on that level that I think where responsible party comes in hand. But I think for today's sake, we want to keep it really higher level. I think that stuff when we start to get into some of the leveraging our software and some of the tools we have, that again is what we really work on in that unique discovery with you. um, it's probably a one-on-one conversation more than a public one. But great question. Thank you.
We have time for one or two more questions. Can you compare versions slash editions within the applications? And Brian, before you answer this, I'm reinserting our emails on chat for if anyone has any leftover questions once we go over time. We'd be happy to respond there.
Yep, go ahead. I'll let you answer this one. Go for it.
So to compare versions or editions, you're gonna have to go through the online mnemonic web page. You have the compare to option there. The desktop app was more of a functionality for people that either want to print standards or just want to go in, view their standards, and get out of the app. It's for users with more simple needs that have to just view their standard, print it, basic end users and engineers. If you'd like to compare the versions, you're gonna have to go through the online web page.
Yeah, great job, Tia. All right.
All right,
Um,
I've put in our info email and Brian's email. Please feel free to reach out if you'd like to have any further conversation. Brian's very quick to respond, and so is our info box. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And thank you so much, Brian, for giving us this demo.
Appreciate everyone. Be safe. Treat each other with kindness. And again, we cannot thank you enough for giving us some time out of your day. We know people are busy. Be safe. Stay healthy. Thank you.